Even though Cold War ended 3 decades ago, many nations are still suffering from its effects. Historians don't know the exact causes of Cold War, but majority thinks of the following main reasons why Cold War broke out between USA and Soviet Union. Number 1. Nuclear threats that were posed by both nations to each other. When USA dropped nuclear bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Soviets noticed that this also posed a similar threat to them. Although during World War II USA and Soviet Union were allies who helped each other defeat Nazi Germany and Japanese Empire, the dropping of nuclear bombs fueled mistrust between the former allies. Soviet spies began to infiltrate America's most secret nuclear project called Manhattan Project to get some information on America's nuclear weapons. In 1949, Soviets tested their first nuclear weapon, and this further heated the tensions between the two nations. Number 2. Ideological differences. Even during World War II, when USA and USSR were allies, USA has always been threatened by Soviet communism, not just on the rest of the world but also on USA itself. After World War II, the most dominant superpowers on the world were the capitalist USA and communist USSR, and the Europe was occupied by allies. After the defeat of Nazi Germany, Germany was divided into 4 occupied zones: the French sector, the British sector, the American sector, and the Russian sector. Both nations began to introduce their own ideologies to their occupied zones and to the rest of the world. In 1949, Western allies such as USA, Britain, France, Australia, Canada, and other Western nations formed an alliance called NATO to counterweight Russia. USA had an economic system known as capitalism. Meanwhile, USSR had an economic system known as communism or Marxism. The people living on the Western Bloc enjoyed a better lifestyle than people living on the Eastern Bloc because NATO allies were investing lavishly in their zones. An Iron Curtain was formed between West Europe and East Europe. Berlin was divided into East Berlin belonging to Soviet Union and West Berlin belonging to NATO. People of East Berlin were not allowed to go anywhere outside, and Soviet Union leader Stalin didn't allow Western allies to airlift and to transport humanitarian aid to their troops and people in East Berlin. In 1949, China became an ally of Soviet Union. USA also sent aid to Turkey and Greece threatened by Soviet communism. Just like that, both nations started to dominate other nations by economic, political, and military aid. Number 3. War for global domination. USA and USSR began to indirectly fight each other in the form of proxy wars throughout the world. Both began to create an intense network of spying. They supported opposing sides and rebel groups in different regions to dominate them. For example, in Korea, Soviet-backed North Koreans led by dictator Kim Il-sung invaded South Korea. Then NATO troops arrived to repel North Koreans all the way back to the borders which exist till this day that divide North and South Korea along the 56th parallel. The same also happened in Vietnam, where a brutal civil war was fought between communist-backed North Vietnam and American-backed South Vietnam. Just like these, many wars were fought where one side was supported by USA and the other one was supported by Soviet Union. If you want to get detailed knowledge about Cold War events, then subscribe my channel to get notified for my upcoming videos.